In an era defined by constant noise and the relentless pursuit of influence, the human mind has become the ultimate battlefield. We live in a world where attention is the new currency, and manipulation is often disguised as marketing, leadership, or even love. To navigate this landscape without losing one's essence, one must possess both a shield and a lens, a shield to guard the soul and a lens to see through the shadows of human intent. This script explores the profound intersection between Stoicism, an ancient philosophy of inner fortitude, and dark psychology, the study of the more clandestine aspects of human behavior. By understanding the mechanics of manipulation and the principles of emotional sovereignty, we do not merely learn how to survive in a chaotic world. We learn how to architect a life of unshakable peace and strategic clarity. This is not just a lesson in philosophy, it is a manual for the modern mind to reclaim its power from the external forces that seek to colonize it. To understand how to resist the darkness, we must first build a foundation of light, and there is no foundation more robust than the Stoic tradition. Founded in the early 3rd century BC by Zeno of Citium, Stoicism was never meant to be an academic exercise. It was a practical toolkit for soldiers, emperors, and slaves alike. At its core lies the dichotomy of control, the radical realization that the universe is divided into two spheres, the things we can control and the things we cannot. Most human suffering stems from the futile attempt to control the uncontrollable, the opinions of others, the outcome of events, or the passage of time. The Stoic, however, retreats into the inner citadel, focusing exclusively on their own character, intentions, and reactions. By tethering one's happiness to internal virtue rather than external validation, the individual becomes immune to the primary leverage points used in dark psychological manipulation: fear, social pressure, and the craving for approval. The genius of Stoic thought, as articulated by Marcus Aurelius Seneca and Epictetus, is the concept of prohairesis, the faculty of choice. It is the understanding that between a stimulus and our response there is a space, and in that space lies our freedom. Dark psychology thrives on bypassing this space, triggering reflexive emotional responses through fear or desire. When we practice Stoic mindfulness, we expand that space. We begin to observe our emotions as external data points rather than internal dictates. Instead of reacting to a manipulative comment with anger, which is exactly what the manipulator wants, the Stoic observes the anger, recognizes it as a judgment, and chooses a response rooted in reason. This level of emotional detachment is not about becoming a robot. It is about becoming the master of one's own internal domain, ensuring that no external hand can pull your strings. While Stoicism builds the walls of our defense, we must also understand the terrain of the enemy. Dark psychology is the study of the human condition as it relates to the psychological processes of predation, coercion, and influence. It encompasses a spectrum of behaviors, ranging from the subtle nudges used in digital interface design to the more predatory traits of the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. A narcissist seeks to erode your boundaries to feed their ego. A Machiavellian views people as chess pieces to be moved for personal gain, and a psychopath operates without the constraints of empathy. By studying these patterns, we are not looking to become villains ourselves, but rather to become wise as serpents and harmless as doves. We learn to identify the red flags of gaslighting, the systematic attempt to make someone doubt their own reality, and the love bombing phases that precede psychological entrapment. Dark psychology often relies on the exploitation of universal human vulnerabilities. We are wired for social belonging, consistency, and reciprocity. Manipulators use these evolutionary backdoors to gain entry into our psyche. They might use nagging to lower your self-esteem so that you seek their validation, or they might employ the scarcity principle to make you act impulsively. When we remain ignorant of these tactics, we are like sailors without a map in a storm-tossed sea. However, when we integrate this knowledge with Stoic principles, we see these tactics for what they truly are: desperate attempts by others to exert control because they lack control over themselves. We realize that a manipulator's power is entirely dependent on our ignorance and our emotional reactivity. Once the curtain is pulled back and the mechanics of the trick are revealed, the illusion loses its grip on our minds. The true power emerges when we synthesize Stoic resilience with psychological awareness. Imagine a scenario where a toxic superior at work attempts to use guilt tripping to make you take on an unreasonable workload. A person without this knowledge might feel a surge of guilt, doubt their own worth, and comply, leading to burnout. A pure Stoic might endure the burden without complaint, viewing it as a test of character. But a Stoic who understands dark psychology sees the maneuver clearly. They recognize the guilt trip as a tactical move designed to exploit their sense of duty. Instead of feeling the guilt, they analyze the situation objectively. This person is attempting to manipulate my emotions to achieve an end. My duty is to my own well-being and the integrity of my work, not to satisfy an unreasonable demand rooted in coercion. This synergy allows for a state of detached observation. You move through the world with an invisible layer of protection. When someone tries to gaslight you, you don't argue, because arguing implies that their false reality has a right to exist. Instead, you hold firm to your internal truth, much like a mountain remains unmoved by the clouds passing its peak. You understand that amor fati, the love of fate, means accepting that there will always be manipulative people in the world. It is not a tragedy. It is simply a part of the human ecosystem. Your job is not to change the nature of the wolf, but to ensure that you are not a sheep. By combining the Stoics' indifference to external outcomes with the psychologist's understanding of human motives, you reach a level of mental clarity that is virtually impossible to disrupt. One of the most potent tools in both Stoicism and dark psychology is the strategic use of silence. In the realm of influence, silence creates a vacuum that the other person feels compelled to fill, often revealing their true intentions or inconsistencies in the process. From a Stoic perspective, silence is an exercise in self-restraint. Epictetus famously said, "Nature hath given men one tongue but two ears, that we may hear from others twice as much as we speak." When you choose to listen more than you speak, you gather intelligence. You observe the body language, the micro-expressions, and the word choices of those around you. You become an anomaly in a world that can't stop talking, and in that anomaly there is immense power. A manipulator thrives on information. They need to know your fears, your desires, and your buttons to control you. By maintaining a Stoic poker face and practicing voluntary silence, you deny them the data they need to build their trap. Furthermore, we must apply the concept of premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils, to our social interactions. This doesn't mean being cynical or paranoid. It means being prepared. Before entering a high-stakes negotiation or a potentially toxic family gathering, visualize the worst manipulative tactics that could be used against you. See yourself remaining calm, see yourself breathing through the tension, and see yourself responding with logic rather than emotion. When the evil actually occurs, it has lost its power of surprise. You have already defeated it in your mind. This mental rehearsal bridges the gap between theory and practice, ensuring that when the pressure is on, your Stoic training overrides your biological flight or fight response. You become the eye of the hurricane, calm and centered while the chaos of human drama swirls around you. In the modern world, dark psychology has been scaled through technology. Algorithms are designed to keep us in a state of perpetual outrage, envy, or inadequacy. This is the attention economy, and it is perhaps the most pervasive form of psychological manipulation in human history. Every notification is a dopamine hit. Every like is a micro-validation. Every scroll is a search for something we haven't lost. To be a Stoic in the 21st century is to be a rebel against the system. It requires the digital asceticism of choosing focus over distraction. We must recognize that our attention is our life's blood. When we give it away to a rage-inducing post or a manipulative advertisement, we are literally giving away pieces of our life. The Stoic approach to the digital world involves setting strict boundaries. We must ask ourselves, is this information essential to my virtue? Does this contribute to my purpose? If the answer is no, we must have the discipline to look away. We must realize that the fear of missing out, FOMO, is a dark psychological trigger used to keep us tethered to the machine. By embracing JOMO, the joy of missing out, we reclaim our time and our mental space. We understand that the only thing we are truly missing out on when we put down the phone is a manufactured reality designed to exploit us. In the quietude of the real world, we find the clarity needed to cultivate our character and engage in deep work, far from the manipulative reach of the digital architects. The journey of mastering the intersection of Stoicism and dark psychology is not a destination, but a lifelong practice. It is about moving from a state of unconscious reaction to a state of conscious action. It is about realizing that while we cannot control the wind, we can always adjust our sails. By building our inner citadel through Stoic discipline and mapping the social landscape through psychological insight, we transform ourselves into individuals who are truly unconquerable. We no longer fear the shadows of human nature because we carry our own light. We are not victims of our environment, but architects of our own destiny. As you move forward from this exploration, remember that the greatest power you will ever possess is the power over yourself. No one can make you feel inferior without your consent. No one can disturb your peace unless you hand them the keys to your kingdom. Stand tall in your virtue, keep your eyes open to the realities of the world, and cultivate a mind that is both a fortress for the good and a mirror for the truth. This is the path of the modern sage, a path of strength, wisdom, and an enduring, unshakable sovereignty of the soul. In a world that seeks to tell you who to be, the most radical and powerful thing you can do is to remain yourself, governed by reason and anchored in peace.